Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Albany City Council meeting, October 22nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. And I'll call the meeting to order. Would you please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands. City Recorder, roll call, please.
Counselor McLeod,
Present.
Counselor Smith,
Here.
Counselor McGee, Counselor Newton,
I'm here.
Counselor Thompson,
Here.
Counselor Van Drimmelen,
Present.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Okay. Next on tonight's agenda, item 3 is adoption of the consent calendar. Council?
I'll move to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next on tonight's agenda is public hearings. The following quasi-judicial, the next following here is appeal for the Planning Commission denial of a conditional use application to use an existing residential structure at 506 Ferry Street Southwest as an outpatient drug and alcohol treatment center. The conditional use case file is CU-03-25. Have all the councilors members received a copy of the agenda packet materials and were able to, are you familiar with them?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. I call to order this quasi-judicial hearing at 6:01 p.m. Do any members wish to declare a conflict of interest? Hearing none. Item 3, do any members wish to report an ex parte communication?
I can report ex parte communication months ago, and I responded, I can't discuss that with you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
It's across the street from my son's daycare. The location?
Thank you. Does any member wish to report a site visit?
It's across the street from my son's daycare.
Okay,
I'm
So-
familiar with the property.
Yeah, familiar with where it is.
thank you very much. Okay. Do any members wish to abstain from participating in the proceedings? Does anyone attending today wish to challenge the city council's right to determine the matter of the participation on the council of any council member in this hearing and decision? If so, please raise your hand. If you are attending remote, please turn on your camera and raise your hand to be called upon. Or if you're attending by phone, please unmute yourself and state your name and to be called upon. At this time, I will call on the reading of the meeting procedures with Planning Manager David Martineau.
Good evening. For all those wishing to testify, please be aware that you must raise an issue with enough detail to afford the planning council and parties an opportunity to respond to the issue if you later want to raise that issue on appeal. Testimony and evidence must be directed towards the approval standards staff will describe or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply to the decision. If additional documents or evidence are provided by any party, the planning commission, or I'm sorry, the city council may allow a continuance or leave the record open to allow the parties a reasonable opportunity to respond. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with enough detail to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court.
Okay, item 8, at this time, I'll call for a staff report from Project Planner David Martineau. Is there a presentation?
Yeah, I'm just queuing it up here. That was the presenter view, I think.
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Fours. Now yours.
I'll just go with my slides as they are. All right.
Or something happened.
I'll do up the,
No slideshow.
thank you for your patience. So this is an appeal of a decision on the conditional use 0325. And this was for a substance abuse treatment center located at 506 Ferry Street. So the property again is at 506 Ferry Street Southwest, and it's in the Hackleman Monteith zoning district. And the applicant proposes to take the existing residence and use that for an alcohol and drug abuse treatment center. And this case went to the Planning Commission on May 19th. And at the time, the Planning Commission decided to deny this application. Shows that, I just need to. Oh, good.
There we go.
Okay. So Article 22 of the Albany Development Code classifies the use as a community service when it's operated by the government, nonprofit, or a charitable organization. And so the applicant proposed no exterior changes to the home except as needed for ADA compliance. This would require a separate review by the Planning or the Landmarks Commission. So the review discussion or the conditional use review criteria is found in Development Code Section 2.250. And the subject property is historic contributing in the Monteith District. And again, no proposed exterior changes, but for any future ADA upgrades that might be required, in which case I would go to the Landmarks Commission. So the Planning Commission, on a vote of 5-3, denied the conditional use application on May 19th, 2025. And the decision to deny was based on the code definition of what community services were. Community services are operated by the government, by a nonprofit, or a charitable organization. At the time of denial, the treatment facility was considered a for-profit LLC. The applicants have since filed articles of incorporation on September 4th of 2025 as a domestic nonprofit corporation. And I will say this, in our comprehensive plan, we actually have a goal dealing with implementation within historic districts. And that goal statement says to expand the list of conditional uses permitted within the historic districts to increase the adaptive reuse of historic structures. So the decision options you have tonight is either approve the application as is proposed or conditioned, approve the application with modifications, or deny the application, which would uphold the Planning Commission's denial. If you do decide to approve it, there is one condition of approval, and that's under historic review. Exterior changes to the structure may require further review and to contact the historic planner prior to undertaking any work in order to confirm if a review is required. That's what I have for you tonight. Do you have any questions?
I do have a couple, well, at least one. So the condition for denial, one of the reasons for denial was it was not a nonprofit.
Correct.
So as it sits right now, this is a for-profit corporation based on what we're doing right now.
That's inconclusive based on what I heard this afternoon, and I think I'd like to defer to the city attorney for clarification.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. So as Mr. Martineau said earlier, May 9th, I think in May, this was denied at the Planning Commission. It was at that time a for-profit LLC called Recovery First LLC. They appealed that denial as Recovery First LLC. And then last month, they formed a new company or new corporation. And I can't remember, it's Core or something, LLC. However, tonight, you should look at the applicant, the appellant in this case, as the for-profit company, because there's not been a new application filed with this new company, with this new nonprofit. It's still a for-profit alcohol and drug recovery center at this point. Now, if they were to come back later with a new application, it's a whole new story. But right now, tonight, this is what the Planning Commission saw, which was a for-profit LLC, and that's what's before you.
Council, any other comments? Councilor McGee?
Is there intent in the future to file for a nonprofit? Because he said,
So they formed a new nonprofit LLC on September 4th
Right.
of last month.
right,
But that wasn't the original application. So when they went before Planning Commission, they didn't have that LLC, and that was formed last month. So tonight, you're looking at what was before the Planning Commission as they were a for-profit company. They have, if they choose to, they could go back and refile a new application as a nonprofit. Yes, they could, but they have not done that. No.
So to clarify, thank you, sir. So to clarify, the current applicant is a for-profit corporation, and we are to base our decision on the current applicant being a
The
for-profit.
current applicant being, being what was before Planning Commission.
Okay.
So that there's been no, basically a new company comes in, it's a new entity, it's a new set of facts. Now they're a nonprofit. So what you may hear tonight was not before Planning Commission. So it's been a change of facts since then. So it would warrant a new application.
Right. So, but tonight's decision is based on the original application,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And
exactly.
so should this application be denied, they would then have the option to reapply as the nonprofit. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but tonight's decision is based on the original applicant
Yes.
being a for-profit corporation. Thank you for that clarification.
Councilor Van Gemelen?
I have a question about the staff recommendations in the packet. So the staff recommendation I see was to approve with conditions. And can you perhaps speak to, because it sounds like the Planning Commission took a different view of community service as quite literally like only those three things in the definition. The different view represented in the staff recommendations?
So when we have like a community services, kind of a purpose statement for that, and then we have use examples, we use those as guidelines for figuring out how to classify the proposal when we get the application. And in this case, we saw that the application was for a drug and alcohol treatment facility. We didn't look at whether or not it was government, nonprofit, or charitable. And to be honest, I mean, it just didn't occur to us. It was a drug and alcohol facility, treatment facility, and it was considered as a community service use. But it didn't, but to the letter of the regulation, it did not actually call out those that are for profit. And so for that reason, we felt that the application was able to more or less stand on its own through the review criteria.
Okay, so follow up to that. So based on the letter of the code, though, since this is a conditional use, it wouldn't have been outside the purview of the planning commission, nor would it be outside the purview of this body as the folks hearing the appeal to say, yes, if we agree that the use that the property is to be put to fits within the definition of community service, yes?
Yes, it was a very discretionary review, and that's why it is a conditional use. It's not left up to staff, but it goes through the planning commission.
Okay. But that, the very specific categories in the definition don't preclude that and haven't in other reviews. Is that, am I understanding this correct?
That would be my understanding as well. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Councilor McLeod.
Thank you, sir. So my next question, I believe as a follow-up to Counselor Van Dremmelman, is if this is approved tonight and it is approved under the applicant being a for-profit business, would this operation then continue to be a for-profit enterprise?
It would be up to the applicant.
It would be up to the applicant. So we would have no say in whether they are for-profit or nonprofit.
Well, they could use either one. Yeah.
They could use either one, should it be approved tonight. Thank you, sir.
I see where you're going.
I have a question.
Councilor Smith.
Comment. When I read through the packet and got to the change, it was like a punchline. And I just think it really muddies the entire case. I wondered why we were hearing it as a de novo hearing when to me, there should be a new application that goes to the planning commission, and it's messy. And I'm not comfortable with this at all. So I may be the only person with that opinion, but it just seems like something you do it, after you thought about it. And oh, by the way, it's awkward, and I'm not comfortable with it.
I understand that.
Councilor Newton.
I concur with you, Counselor Smith. It feels almost like a shell game, and even the email that was used for filing for the nonprofit was the business's name, business URL. I found that very interesting, and I'm even very hesitant. I'm wondering if we should revisit like how our planning, there are some terrible nonprofits out there. There are some great nonprofits. It's making me want to revisit some of our use cases. I'm wondering, does this nonprofit entity that was just filed last month have bylaws? Does it have a mission? Does it have a board? Does it have anything that would even preclude it? Does that mean that the location now over on Elm Street is now considered a nonprofit? How do we know that the nonprofit actually operating in this building? Really, it seems like there was not enough due diligence done when purchasing this residential property to understand that it could then be utilized for the use that they wanted it to be.
Councilor Thompson.
Yeah, just to add on to that, going through this, I didn't see the connection between 506 Ferry Street and the newly incorporated nonprofit. I think that's tenuous at best. So I don't see where does it, there's a key individual that's listed. The individuals kind of changed a little bit, but there's a key individual in both their previous business charter with the state and their new nonprofit. It just, yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. It's sloppy, and I agree, and it's making me lean towards upholding the planning commission's denial. I think that's the default.
Okay, so
It's sloppy.
okay. Thanks, councilors. I appreciate your feedback. We will now take testimony from the applicant. Would the applicant please make your way to the dais and state your name and for the record?
Of course. Hello, my name is Celia Cicada. I'm a project manager at Baritone Architecture. I do understand the perspective of council members in terms of, yes, this nonprofit was created as a direct response of the denial in May. When we were reviewing our options through city feedback, this seemed to be a clear way to address the primary concern in the denial. Nowhere in that conversation with the city were we ever alerted to the fact that basically you were essentially transferring the applicant information, or that there would be a disagreement between applicant information. That was an issue we didn't find out about until today, frankly. I would also say that, you know, you can do conditions of approval. If a condition of approval is that the nonprofit solely operates out of this building, you can do that as to formalize that part of the agreement. You know, as far as my client is concerned, they are very serious in terms of what function this building provides. For those of you that may be unfamiliar how many of these services work, there are portions of services that are privately funded. It is, you know, private individuals paying for their own treatment and recovery. There's also a lot of cooperation and engagement with government and community organizations. So they are basically carving all of those community-based activities to be operating out of that house. So they would no longer do any sort of private care. This would really be fully coordinated community services, just so that there's a fine delineation between what happens at, what's the?
Queen, Recovery First versus Core Recovery Connections.
Core Recovery, yeah. Sorry, that one's a hard one to keep in my head. So Core Recovery would be fully community-based, fully engaged in those parts of the services, which means frankly that we actually see a reduced occupant load because many of their services are out in the community. It is therapists and counselors going out to the community, going to the people that they need services. So we are happy to take a look at those types of agreements that, you know, have a kind of a more well-defined standards for what happens as part of the nonprofit activities in this house. But again, like, we're happy to engage in all those conversations in good faith, and we have done everything in good faith. You know, when the issue of the nonprofit status came up, we asked, okay, what do we do with it? The city told us, well, consider being a nonprofit and what you can do to be a nonprofit and, you know, provide those services. So that's what my clients did. Again, it feels really odd that we're finding so late in the game that we can all of a sudden not do that, or that it kind of makes the whole application invalid. You know, I also am a little confused in terms of the city's attorney's statements today, because my understanding in conversations with the city, with a land use attorney, with a land use specialty that we frequently work with, is that you really have up to the date of the appeal or to the new narrative filing to bring new information. So new facts, new interpretations, like you can always present new stuff up into the appeal. I've never had any feedback that the application that was presented in May is frozen in amber.
Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to say that.
Who are you?
Angela Kelly, I'm one of the owners.
Thank you.
I would just like to say, like, us filing for a conditional use, switching to nonprofit is all based off us coming in here and what we've heard. Recovery First has its own location now. It's over on Queen. You can drive by and see the sign up. You can see that it's there. It's not even connected to the house anymore, based on what we've been told by the city. And so we created there's nothing shady about it. We created it because they said that's what it needed to be. And I don't think that's shady. I think that our community has a fentanyl crisis, a housing crisis. I mean, that house sat empty for years, nobody using it. We have already put over $15,000 in restoring and repainting and upgrading on the inside. We have no plans to change that or to change the fact that it's a historical home. And we're really just about helping our community. You don't become a drug and alcohol counselor to get rich. And I saw in some of the comments that that was the case, that we are trying to make money. And like, I'm sorry, I make $26 an hour. I don't make a lot of money, and we have put everything into this. Did we not follow? It was our first time. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we have stuck with it, and we're going to continue to stick with it.
Council, have any questions?
I wanted to mention a comment. I know the First Christian Church is in the application. They also have a childcare center. That is not stated, and I know that the drug and alcohol services they do is in the evening, not during the day when the childcare centers are open. Wanted to mention that fact. And then also, I'm sorry this is your first time purchasing property. I feel like more due diligence should have been done before purchasing it, because you were buying a single family residence that was zoned single family, and maybe your realtor or someone else should have guided you better. But it really feels like, especially knowing there are other locations throughout the city, downtown, and in other areas where this type of business, could have been easily put in there without this entire process, without even having to do an appeal or. So it feels a little frustrating, and it's,
Yeah, I will say, Counselor, that almost, there's only been a small handful of realtors that I have met that even know that you need to talk to an architect before you buy a stinking building. It is an endemic issue. We have people calling us all the time that only find out after they purchase the building that they can't do A, B, and C, and they had no idea that these things even existed. And then they ask us, like, why is it that the people 3 doors down can do this? And, I was like, well, they did this 10 years ago before code enforcement was really strict, and that's the best answer I can tell them. Like, this is a wider public education issue in Oregon.
So question, didn't you guys purchase your other building over on Elm?
I didn't, no.
That someone else did with your organization that might have had experience purchasing buildings?
No, that was her first time.
Okay, so you just got lucky.
Yeah. Most people get lucky most of the time.
There was no guidance or advising. I'm having a hard time believing that when you're a business owner and are, have extended education, master's degrees, additional training. I understand that you're saying that folks that this is an endemic issue, but that frankly isn't the at the fault of the city.
No, it's honestly the fault of the states and the public education at that level. But it is really, really common. I don't think we can fault a single human being, because what we're taught is we talk to our real estate, we hire a building inspector, and we talk to the bank, and away we go. People don't think to call like someone that's a code specialist or an architect when they're buying buildings for commercial use. They really don't. It's only the most experienced clients and developers that understand that is just part of the process.
Councilman McLeod, you have a question?
I do. Thank you. It's probably more of a statement. But I just wanted to say that I feel for you as a homeowner and as someone who has helped others with addiction. I feel for the mission that you have. What I think we have here is a paperwork issue. It's not anything other than that. I think that like the city attorney said, we have to make the decision based on the original applicant. If that is that decision from the planning department is, I'm sorry, the planning commission is upheld, then all you have to do is reapply as the nonprofit, and then you probably have a better chance of it being approved at that time.
Yeah, we definitely understand that. I think what I would like also further clarity on at this time is whether that application, once submitted, is kind of frozen in time on its initial hearing. Because fundamentally, that's part of the issue here, is that we were repeatedly told by both experts in the field and city staff that we could submit additional information, we could update information. This had a certain amount of flexibility in it. What we're finding out that no, like what this is based on is the snapshot that was taken in May. And so if that's the truth, I would like to first, interrogate whether that standard is consistently upheld. And if that is the future standard, we will be held to.
I can clarify some of that. So the applicant's correct when she originally was saying that she thought she could bring in additional information to this hearing. This is a de novo review, which means it's like a Latin for new eyes, right? So it's a new review of this. So additional information can be brought in any de novo review. The issue we had here is it's not that the information coming in can be new, it's that the applicant at the time of the appeal was a for-profit. You can't switch the applicant during an appeal process. So don't have a land use example on the top of my head, but if hypothetically, if someone was applying for an alcohol license and the planning commission could grant those and they were denied because they were a convicted felon, then they appealed that process. When they came before the council, if a new person showed up and said, well, I'm here to get that liquor license, it's a different person. It's a different applicant. And what we had is Recovery First is a separate entity. It has a separate tax ID number. It's its own entity. And the new entity that they have formed is also a separate entity from Recovery First. So if the other applicant or the other LLC was the applicant here tonight or had gone through the process, you have a whole different, well, you have something more to think about, right? Because the issue of it being a nonprofit is not an issue anymore because it is a nonprofit. But that wasn't the issue before the Planning Commission. And so people who saw that hearing, if we switch the applicant now, those people weren't given notice that we have a new applicant here. And I get it's the same people, it's the same principles. I understand that. But it's just not the same applicant that was in front of the Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission would need to see that. So,
Counselor Thompson had a question.
Yeah, so putting aside all that discussion for a moment, I want to get on the record some of the criteria, if that's appropriate. Criteria number 3 is about the transportation system being able to support this kind of conditional use. And that area, parking is an absolute premium in that area. It is the courthouse use. The idea that, the Twin Rivers Market is meant for the people or for the businesses there at Twin Rivers or Two Rivers. There's other lots farther away that I think it kind of defies common sense that people are going to park at Water Avenue and then walk to 506 Ferry. I live near the facility at Elm and 11th, and I see folks, I'm assuming prior and following their appointments, I'm sure they use the bus waiting. If that's the case, that's going to be folks, it's mentioned in here up to 30 visits in a residential area. And I don't think that's compatible with the residential area, which is actually section 5, criteria 5. It's not only a residential area, it's our historic Monteith district. And I think taking an historic home and changing it for this is just fundamentally not the Albany that I want to see. Which is more of an editorial comment, I realize, not the planning, but we've just gone through beginning our strategic planning, and we all talk a lot about what draws us to Albany, and historic Albany is very much a part of that. And I think this is just not compatible with the underlying Monteith-Hackelman zoning.
Go ahead, please.
Sure. To address a couple of your points, within the recovery community, peoples with driver's license and vehicles are underrepresented. A very huge portion of their clients require public transportation, or they use a community service that actually buses them to their critical appointments. So, this isn't the same type of traffic that a retail space or a private therapy space, like a couples counseling place would have, simply because licenses and car ownership are underrepresented. On top of that, you have staff that is heavily engaged in community service. So they are out driving in the community, going out to people that need their assistance. Beyond, the idea that, houses don't occasionally have high amounts of people in them. That feels a little dodgy to me. I mean, every Sunday I host 20 to 25 people in a 1,400 square foot ranch house every Sunday during the winter. That's normal in my neighborhood. I would also say that when it comes to the character of a district, there are types of codes and is language that can be used to describe the functional characteristics of a neighborhood. This is the type of business we're trying to encourage. This is the type of activity we are trying to encourage. The way that conditional use works is they are asking about the architectural character. Is anything fundamentally changing about the architectural character of this house? No, they're not doing anything to it. And if anything, that they have vastly improved the interior of the house. There are structural upgrades that house has desperately needed that they are engaging in. And then anything on the outside would be protected by historic commission. I would also say that, the idea that people that are suffering from substance abuse are not part of our historic town or any town's history. No, it's been here the whole time. It is.
Well, from my perspective, it kind of beggars belief that a commercial activity, a nonprofit of that intensity is not going to take that at some point in the future, do some significant changes to that residential home to make it make more sense to their operation. And that would not, the interior of the home would not be subject to landmarks review. And I said I live near the 11th and Elm. I fully support it. I think there are many areas in the community where this would make sense. And I think this does not make sense in the Monteith-Hackelman zoning.
So what I'm hearing is you would like, who had something? What, Counselor?
So statement and a question, kind of going along with Counselor Thompson's line of thought there. So first of all, it seems like, so the denial based on your organization being a for-profit company versus a nonprofit, to me very much seems like we're quibbling over a technicality. The service that you would be providing out of this location is the same, yes, if you are operating as a for-profit versus a not-for-profit, like which type of LLC, that's my
Under
understanding
a
of that is.
nonprofit, they would have to be more tailored to the community service engagement. It does slightly shift.
So
the
in what way,
activities in the house.
so I guess then in what way would that alter the way that you would provide services before I get to my second
Want to
question?
speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, so based off of what was said at the last meeting when it was denied, and the recommendations to file the appeal and to get a nonprofit status, we got the other building to run Recovery First in, which we're waiting from our letter of approval. We have a program called Just Care that operates currently out of Dynamic. And it is meant to be a nonprofit anyways. Clinicians go to the client's home, they go to homeless camps, they go wherever they need to meet the client at. There's no group involvement in that specific substance use criteria. Like there's no group, it's all individual 5 days a week with your counselor. And UA is 5 days a week. Very seldom, except for things like doing the assessment, which is easier if you're in the office because you can type it versus sitting in your car at the park. So it would be more the clinicians going out into the community to where the clients are. And then occasionally, like even having groups there is not going to happen. We moved that to Queen Street. That's not going to happen in the house now. Based off of what we've been hearing, everything we have done has been a result of everything that we have been told here. Well, you need to do this, or you need to fix this. And that's what we have been doing the whole time.
But is that, so just to clarify, that changed, you say that's a result of what we've been told. Is that directly tied to operating as a nonprofit out of that location?
So based on everybody saying that it was too many people in the house, the traffic would be too much, it's best to do that there and move our other to where people come to do groups to a commercial building, which we did.
Okay, sure. I can appreciate that you're trying to be responsive to
Yeah.
feedback from planning staff, the planning commission, et cetera. But my question is more directly tied to, because based on my current understanding is like the services provided would at least be substantially similar,
Yes,
whether you're operating as a for-profit or a nonprofit.
correct.
So to me, that seems like a weird standard to set as a city, that the same service would be acceptable provided by a nonprofit organization, but not by a for-profit organization. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And if that's going to be a sticking point in the future for our planning commission folks, I think that we need to take a look at our code and see if that level of specificity is really what we mean and what we want. But my question that I was driving toward before I got a little sidetracked into some other follow-up questions, my apologies, is why 506 Ferry, other than the building was available? Like that obviously plays a role. I'm a real estate person, so like availability is one of the primary things you look at first. But like why that location, to kind of piggyback off of Counselor Thompson's line of thought?
Yeah, so originally our plan was
Closer to the
to,
microphone, please, so I can hear you.
originally our plan was to open a more like sober living base out of there, and it could house more people. That was the very first part of the application that we created. But then we found out you need fire sprinklers and all these things that we could not afford to do. I mean, the truth is like, should we have bought another house? Probably, but we ended up with this house and we've been trying to make it work all along. We can't, I mean, we both have invested money in this place that I get everybody's concerns about you didn't do your due diligence. Well, we didn't know that first off, you had to file a conditional use to even have like an Oxford type of house now. We didn't know that. And so now we're just trying to do the best we can with what has happened. We can't change that that's the house we bought and that all of this came because of that. I mean, it's definitely a learning point for sure.
Okay, so it would be fair to say that the original intent for the use of the property was different than what it is going to need to look like moving forward,
Yes.
but it can still be a viable property for your organization.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Counselor Smith, do you have anything?
I'm focused on a remark that the architect made earlier. I didn't catch your name, so I apologize for that. But you mentioned encouraging certain types of business activity in certain areas. I don't believe that this is the kind of, this encouraging business activity in a residential neighborhood doesn't sound compatible to me. Encouraging residential activity in a residential neighborhood is good, especially a residential neighborhood that's bordered by daycare centers.
Yes.
I fully support drug and alcohol treatment. Family members have been recipients of that many times in the past. And I understand what you're trying to do. I don't think this is the right place. And to lay this on a technicality, changing from one type of entity to another, is, in my opinion, more than introducing new information in an appeal. That's substantial information. It's a huge change. Maybe it shouldn't be the deal breaker here, but it's I'm simply stating my opinion here. It just does it's a bad fit.
Okay.
Understood, and I apologize for the confusion. My previous point was simply to state that in our reading of the code, when I read the word character as it applies to our situation, to me, that clearly reads as architectural character.
I understand that.
So
Can I-
since the council's asked
Can I
questions.
ask a quick question? On page 79, item number 6, it's like a little she shed kind of structure, it looks like. it says treatment. Are we doing treatment out of a she shed kind of thing?
That's going to be used as a little office. It was an existing shed, and so there, I believe,
Like treatment in the office, or what is, I'm just trying to understand what the use case is for that.
for the shed, it's trying to make something that's existing usable.
Okay, I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and
Um,
I will say that from a build, for a lot of times when we're looking at the use of a space, we look at it from a building code functionality, and we have to, as policy, default to what would be the most hazardous use for any given space. So when we look at something that is primarily someone's office, if they're a therapist, we have to assume that at some point they will have a second individual that in there that's their patient. And so from like a function of space and building code perspective, we need to label it as such.
okay, but it doesn't have insulation. It wouldn't be like a real office.
It would
would
need
need-
a, part of this would be a separate building permit after this that would document any
Oh.
of those types of things.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to concur also with what Counselor Smith said. I also, I have relatives who are addicts. I'm supportive of the services. I just do not think this is the right building at all, the right structure.
So,
I just want to say real fast, I hear a lot of the council saying that they fully support, but this is not the place for it. And I just have to say that, it's a little bothersome to me. And I specifically with Counselor Thompson's remarks about what it looks like to be in historic Albany and et cetera. We need to be very careful about the language in which we're using, especially in terms of folks who are going through these types of services. And show a little bit compassion, a little bit more compassion. And to your point, Miss, who owns the space, you're doing the best with what you got. As somebody who has a nonprofit, I'm going to tell you that there are a lot of things that you don't know when you embark on it or when you open a business. And yes, people say you should do your due diligence. You may have gotten conflicting information from multiple sources, and it is very hard to figure out. And when you're trying to do something and do it in the best way you know how, then there are things that come up that you are just trying to respond to do what needs to be done in the moment. With that being said, it is unfortunate that this has happened, right? But we are here. But I just want to say on the dais that I think that some of us, you've had family, et cetera. Beside all that, I think we just need to think about the people in our community who are suffering from addiction and recovery and things of that nature, and give a little bit more heads off to the people who are helping get that situation under control here, because that's very hard. And I think that we need to think about that while using language here, sitting in this space. It's very important.
so I'd like to pull us back to the agenda, the hearing. So we will now be taking testimony from first those who are in favor of the applicant, then followed by the people who are in opposition, and those that are neutral will come after that.
Mayor, can I ask a quick question of City Attorney?
Yes.
If we were to approve this, would it set a precedent for if someone comes before us and says, I just wasn't sure about X, Y, and Z? Would that then set a precedent that we would need to allow future applications that might come before us?
It could, if you're saying that that you approve it, saying, well, we know that they made some mistakes, didn't do due diligence, but we're gonna overlook that, or you put that in your decision, in your findings, then it could set a precedent. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it depends on how we wrote the findings up at that point. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
We will now be taking public testimony first from those in favor of the applicants, followed by those in opposition or with concerns, and finally from anyone who's neutral. If anyone wishes to enter an exhibit into the record, it is part of your testimony. Please briefly, again, my eyesight, describe the exhibit and then email it to the address to the city recorder. Written testimony that was submitted by the deadline via email has been uploaded in the city website as part of the agenda packet. Bill Orger. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, no, you didn't. I read the wrong box. Does that say Jody? What's your last name, Miss? Jody Warren?
Yes. I have my letter that I already sent in. So do I need to include it as an exhibit?
I think he already has it. The city recorder already has it.
I think, if I recall correctly, this might have been received after the deadline today.
Okay.
So we would want it included in the record.
Okay, so please, we'll reset our time, please. So do you have a copy for him?
Yes.
Please go and give it to him.
Can I read it?
Are you gonna read the letter?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so let's do
assume I
that.
should.
So,
How long do I have?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. As a professional social worker in Lynn County, I'm writing to express my strong support for the Core Recovery Connections proposal to be located at 506 Ferry Street Southwest. Not only do I have a professional experience in this field, but I am also well acquainted with the Hackelman-Monteith District where a family member resides. The commitment of Core Recovery Connections to preserving the historic character of the home and landscape while offering essential services is commendable. Having collaborated with the owners for numerous years, I can personally vouch for their unwavering professionalism and dedication to the well-being of our community. The alarming rise in fentanyl use and overdoses highlights the urgent need for local addiction recovery services. While working with families in the child welfare system, I often encounter parents eager to access recovery services, but unable to do so due to lack of availability, transportation, etc. When children are in foster care, parents need to be close to visit their children while also engaging in these necessary addiction services. The proximity to child welfare, self-sufficiency, parole and probation, the courts, attorney offices, etc., eliminates transportation barriers, making local services even more critical in our large rural county. The presence of other longstanding community services at nearby churches, etc., further strengthens the well-being of the public. And the mix of staff and clients of Core Recovery Connections, the business hours and indoor activities are consistent with others in the area, creating no outstanding noise, traffic, or parking issues based on their services, while also having easy access to all public services, whether that's police, fire, water, etc. Please consider the needs of the larger community to have a safe, supportive space for individuals and families impacted by addiction to rebuild their lives. The timing could not be more critical. I would also like to comment on some of what I've heard here, some of which I've appreciated and some of which has been rather insulting. I have a social work degree, a master's. It does not mean I have due diligence about buildings and nonprofits. So I appreciated Councilor McGee's comments. Thank you. And for there to be comments like this is a sloppy application, I think was unnecessary and really indicative of the dislike. So that's unfortunate. But I hope the community and the council will not make this a technical issue and find a way to support this absolutely critical service. I can't say that enough, and I think it's so well known, it doesn't even need to be said. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, 4 is Crystalline Arnold. Did I say your name properly? Christy Lynn. I'm sorry about that.
I'll just call it out. I have really bad anxiety. It leads me, it takes from me. I am just here to share, I lived in Albany my whole life. I totally validate the historic district, but I also validate that we do have a crisis going on. People are dying out there. People are using in the historic districts. They use everywhere. I think this would be beneficial. I can say from my own experience with addiction and now working in the recovery community, the one thing that changed my life and for me and my kids and stopped that cycle was people that were coming into my home and teaching me how to live, teaching me how to pay my bills, teaching me to set boundaries. My kid has not been removed from me since I had somebody that came into my home and helped me when my kids were being removed every 2 years. I think that the kind of treatment that they're taking out there is life-changing. I've been housed for 10 years. I've never, ever had any kind of complaint. When previously I had police at my house nonstop. This is the kind of care that needs to happen, going into the community, going into the tents, going out where people aren't able to come in. This is life-changing. This is saving lives. And I have worked with them. I'm community partners with them. And I know that their goal is to help people, but their goal is also to have an impact on the community and to respect the community and to respect historic homes. I truly believe that this would be life-changing for many. And I just really am in support of it.
Thank you, Priscilla. Now we'll take testimony from those that's signed up to be against this project. Bill Orger.
Good evening and thank you. I've been an Albany resident for 48 years, 35 of which in the historic district. I attended the hearing before the Planning Commission. There were a number, no one doubts the value of the services or the necessity or the humanity of the people who work hard for recovery. But it is like all businesses, you need to be in the right place. The things that were brought up that haven't been addressed were traffic. And whether a person drives, comes by taxi, comes by Uber, or comes by bus, they have to get there. And if they wait for public transportation, they will be there. And so the fact that people don't drive, somebody's going to drive them there. There's going to be a huge amount of traffic. And I don't know whether they're going to have 5 or 10 or 30 people a day, but there's going to be a lot more traffic than there would be if this were a home. Albany's pride is this historic district. And I have seen the rise and prosperity of the historic district and how the city has this identity. But I've also seen that commercial development here is a one-way street. This house will be removed as a residence, and it will never be a residence again because of the interior remodeling that are necessary to make it a business. You know, my house would not be a good business place. My business would not be a good residence. And there are residential treatments. There's an Oxford house 3 doors down from me. It's a residence. People live there. They act as if they are, well, they're my neighbors. They come and go as people do because they have jobs, they have schedules, but they live there. These folks will not live there. They will come and go. And in the previous hearing, there were lots of comments about compatibility with the daycare center, compatibility with a residential center. In fact, the manager of the Oxford house next door came in and questioned this. So this is unfortunate, and the whole shell game of what runs it misses the issue. This is a good service in the wrong place. This is residential area, and it needs to remain that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Cameron Settlemire.
My name is Cameron Settlemire. I live in the Hackerman Monteith District. Albany Development Code 2.250 Section 1 says the proposed use needs to be consistent with the intended character of the base zone and the operating characteristics of the neighborhood. The base zone is defined in Albany Development Code 3.020 Section 8. And that says the HM district is intended primarily to preserve the historic character of the existing residential resources in the Hackerman and Monteith National Register historic districts. And what we have proposed here is to take an existing residential resource within the district and turn it into a non-residential resource. And that is completely against the intended character of the base zone as required by EDC 2.250 Section 1. And as noted, once this is taken out of residential, it's very unlikely it will be put back into residential. Albany does have a housing crisis, and this is a residential house that then no longer serves as housing. Albany Development Code 2.250 Criterion 3. One of the things it specifically talks about is street parking impacts. This is right next to the courthouse. This is already a very difficult area to park in. I don't think it's realistic to have employees always be parking 5 blocks away in the winter, in the rain, to come in. I don't think that's how human behavior works. That's in addition to any of the clients that come in. This is going to have a very negative impact on the neighbors there as far as being able to have a place to park by your own residents. And then also a little bit of detail about why the Planning Commission denied is basically talks about an agenda packet, page 80, where for the conditional use, a community service is allowed, a charitable organization is allowed. However, a charitable organization has to be a nonprofit as defined by Oregon Administrative Rules 125.030-0016. That is to say, it needs to be recognized as a 501c3 organization under the IRS or a state-created nonprofit. If that's not the case, then this is a for-profit organization, and that's not allowed at all as a conditional use permit.
Thank you. We will now be taking testimony from those who did not not register to speak beforehand. Is any member of the public interested in speaking today on this topic? On this topic?
I think I would. Matt?
3 minutes, please.
I didn't come here to speak on this topic, but I was very intrigued listening to the testimony and the information provided. I'm in the housing space, been so for 30 years.
Who are you?
My name is Ben Roach. Sorry, thank you, Ben Roach. I live in Albany, Oregon, Ward 3. Every time I try to get a home order for the Palm Harbor plant, there's always a reason why they can't get a permit. Hear it every day. Lots of reasons, lots of red tape. We don't have enough housing. One of the things I talked to some of the counselors here about homelessness, about drug addiction, about things that plague our communities, things that are destroying our state. One of those things is the fact that we don't recognize that drug addiction and mental health issues are one of the primary drivers of homelessness and this crisis that's facing the state. Our governor called it a housing emergency, but she hasn't addressed the fact that that emergency core issue is what we're talking about here today, alcohol and drug treatment. So think about that. You guys, because the stroke of your vote today can put a new place for people to find hope, okay? You can cut that red tape and keep these people from having to file a new permit and start over with a process that they probably would be approved in the first place if they knew all the rules. But we're asking them to learn the process right here in front of all of you in a public forum and expect this thing to just go back from the start and start all over again. You know how many families I've dealt with trying to get building permits, this very same type of issue? They do all the things everybody tells them, do the environmental studies, do all of the paperwork, and then they're told, no, now you need to have a new septic. You need a sand filter. Now you need to have a defensible space. Now you need to put in a hammerhead fire thing for the fire truck to turn around because there was just a wildfire last year and your permit's denied again. Same thing I hear again and again, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, whether it's a small town or big town, is red tape getting in the way of progress. You know, and I'm trying to get along more with progressive people, but it seems like progressive people are always getting in the way of progress. So I'll yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to speak on the topic, please? Please state your name when you come up.
My name is Hunter Hawthorne. I'm a recently new resident here of Albany. Came tonight not intending, I didn't even know what was going to be on the agenda, to be honest with you. And I just want to echo a lot of the sentiments that were said here today. I would like to see if I understand what you are all actually deciding on, because it's my understanding that you are deciding if this organization serves the community enough as a for-profit to qualify for the conditional use requirements. And if this is correct, my question is, what is the difference in barriers to care that someone might face in a for-profit versus a nonprofit? And this is really my only concern. I do, however, find it concerning that we are so behind the times and so far behind Europe that we can't handle an empty building being used to help our community. I also find it very uncharitable and unkind to view, an unkind view to see people who are our neighbors as the wrong kind of addition to historic Albany. I speak as somebody both, I am a history nerd, I have a history degree. I respectfully appreciate some of the sentiments expressed from the other end of this conversation, but I also speak as somebody who lost a very, very close family member to fentanyl. And this is a serious crisis. We have to be able to just meet the needs of our community. And you can certainly see what this, I don't even know these folks all that well, but you can see a lot of what they bring to this community and what they're trying to do. And they're trying to meet you all where you're at and understand your code, understand your process. Nobody comes here with the full grand expertise, but they're trying their hardest. They're doing the best they can, and it's the least we can do. And I really value what this gentleman just said just a moment ago, to understand a lot of the root causes that cause these issues to persist. The fact that, think about housing crisis, it's a big deal. And we have to really question, we continue to see a housing crisis while these other for-profits, these landlords are continuing to raise rents on people. What do people do when they're in desperation? Where do they turn to? Where do they go? And so we have to be able to think about some of these things as we make these decisions as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have comments? Okay, thank you. Does the applicant have any rebuttal testimony? Thank you. Does the staff have final comments in response to the testimony presented?
No, sir.
I declare this public hearing closed at 7:07 p.m. I will now call for deliberation. Does any council wish to discuss this case? Councilor McLeod?
Thank you, sir. I want to acknowledge the applicant's important work in treating drug addiction. It's a service that our community deeply needs and values, and I want to see this treatment center available to the people in our community. My concern isn't with the intent or the merit of this project, but with the process. Approving this application despite a change in applicant could unintentionally set a dangerous precedent where others might change entities mid-process, opening the door to potential misuse. To protect the integrity of our land use process and ensure fairness for everyone, we need to be consistent and transparent in how we handle these situations. Thank you.
Councilor Thompson?
I want to echo Councilor McLeod's
McLeod.
Cloud's comments. I don't think any of us here have a personal or a general negative view towards folks in recovery. I feel safe in saying, I feel understood in saying that. Like I said, I live near the 11th and Elms facility. I'm sure it's doing great work. I support it. It also fits into the zoning of the medical offices that are in that area. I mean, this is fundamentally, the gentleman, the young man asked, what are we here for? This is a land use decision that we've been, a quasi-judicial decision that has landed upon us. And I realized when I spoke in general terms about historic Albany, I was getting more into the general political views over the years, because frankly, I have watched our historic districts kind of be nibbled away at. And like I said, I think this is another part of it, but strictly holding to the land use decision that's before us, there are many reasons why I don't think it fits the criteria. And then you add on top of it, I don't think it fits in the whole discussion over a for-profit entity versus a nonprofit. So that's where I'm at. But this is not about, without a doubt, it's not about. It's a good service in the wrong place, as Mr. Order said. And that's where I land.
Thank you. Counselor Van Dremelen.
Oh, I just said Dr. Orger.
Dr. Orger.
I think I'm going to have to fundamentally disagree here with some things that have been said. I think that particularly given the conflicting standards applied by the city staff review, where community service was treated as based on the service that the organization is providing to the community and the recommendation to approve, and the standard applied by the Planning Commission, which is a strict reading of a particular piece of language in our zoning code based on what community service is. I think one of the most important questions that we have to ask, and I think that it's been alluded to in this discussion, is, well, if they just go back and apply as a nonprofit, this would sail through and be approved. I think I'm going to have to disagree with that based on some of the testimony that I've heard and some of the discussion that I've heard tonight. I think that at issue is litigating the service that this organization is trying to provide in this community based on technicality. I also don't think that if it is the view of this council on this appeal, that if they were to simply go back and reapply as a nonprofit, that this would be totally okay, that it's a good use of city staff's time, the Planning Commission's time, or our time to say, okay, go back, reapply, because how long has this decision already been drug out by this process? Again, trying to litigate this on a technicality. So I do not, and this was a structure that sat vacant in the historic district. So I would lean towards approving this.
I would, yep, I'm with you on that, Counselor Van Dremelen. I would have to definitely second that.
Counselor Newton.
I feel that the use of a residential building in that area, I would be, like, earlier today, I was at the Serenity Lane event, like down in Eugene. Like, I'm very supportive of drug and alcohol treatment centers. I find that making an exception to place us in a residential zoned area, regardless of nonprofit or for-profit, personally, I'd like to review. I find it is the wrong choice. It's the wrong place for this type of business. So I'm a no.
Counselor Smith.
I agree with Counselor Newton.
Like I said earlier, my largest concern is with the potential for misuse in the change of the applicant mid-process. I think that in the future, if this is approved today, this could set a dangerous precedent of having applications change applicants mid-process. It's like starting to buy a house and mid-process say, oh, it's a new buyer.
But I also think that we as a city or city staff has to be a little bit more clearer in their education of this, because we wouldn't be here had there been not conflicting information. It needs to be consistent, but it has to be accurate and honest. And if you're telling people one thing and they're getting another thing, that's not the fault of in my opinion, the applicant. That's the fault of folks not giving the correct information. And to be honest, it seems like it falls more on us than the applicant.
I absolutely
have to say
agree.
that.
I absolutely agree, but I'm thinking of the future. I'm thinking of future applicants of a similar land use. I'm thinking of applications in the future, should applicants change mid-process, that could be a huge problem in the future. And I don't think we should be setting that precedent today.
Can I make a quick comment?
Sure.
Councilor McGee, I had similar concerns when this was going before Planning Commission. I actually talked to Director Rutgers and I said, hey, did they talk to the city before they purchased this property? He said, no. They didn't ask about the land use. They didn't ask about anything overlay. It's only after the fact, after they'd already purchased that property. So it isn't like us telling them later on, like, hey, you can't do that. It was, they made the choice and purchased the property and then realized after the fact. And now this is kind of like a cleanup or how to fix it.
Councilor Benjamin?
Yeah. So I just want to the attorney, can you please clarify we are not hearing from, there is not a change in applicants, correct?
Yes.
No, they have filed a nonprofit, but that does not mean that the applicant on this land use appeal is a different legal entity than who originally applied to use the property, correct?
Right, so
Okay.
it was, and I can say to save time, and you were expressing some concern about the time that the staff and the council and the planning commission and the applicant would be using. My experience in dealing with LUBA appeals, if this were to be approved tonight, if someone in here that has standing appeals that approval to the LUBA, nothing's guaranteed, but there's a very high probability it's going to be an automatic remand back down to us again, and that's going to be even a longer process. And I mean, I'm not, like I said, I can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty confident it will get remanded.
Say more words about that. I'm not sure I understand what you're.
So if someone tonight in here if this was to be approved by council tonight and someone in here who was opposed to it, who participated in this proceeding, challenges it to LUBA, my belief is LUBA would find that the applicant who originally was on the application which was a for-profit, didn't meet the criteria. If that was the criteria that was used tonight, that we said we're gonna go against what planning commission's recommendation was because we don't think that matters. I think LUBA would disagree with that and remand that back, and we would have to have this proceeding all over again.
With
But
a new
we'd have to have a
entity.
LUBA appeal first in order to do it.
Right.
So
Be the same, it would be the same appeal. It would be the same applicant, the
Right.
for-profit
Right.
LLC throughout the whole.
Or they would just turn around and reverse it and say that you can't switch applications in the process, and then they would have to come back and refile as the new LLC again. So if that's the concern, I think it's probably their attorney, but better for them to do a new application if that's the only thing holding this up. And I don't know that it is, but I'm just saying if it was, that would be probably the easiest thing.
So for me, I like to chime in. Most of everybody up here knows that my family's had drug addiction and issues, even death associated with drug and alcohol. I love the work that you guys do. I really do. One person in my family was saved and 2 people we lost because they didn't have the services like what you provide. My wife used to manage right off 8th Avenue or 8th, Elm 8th, a behavioral health facility, and she had people that with their drug and alcohol problems. So I do appreciate the work you're doing. But me, I'm a stickler for procedure. As an agent, a person that has a certification and licensing to make decisions for other people with other people. The applicant before me right now as the mayor of this city is a for-profit business. I would like to see it come back as a nonprofit business, go back to planning, because that's the reason they denied it. Then if they deny it, then come back to us. But that's the only way I can see a clean break for this.
Mr. Mayor, I concur.
I wanted to offer a comment up in process to maintain public safety and the safety of the community rather than one address at a time. The point of process is for the protection of all of us. And I know it gets in the way of doing things quickly, doing them exactly as you want. But that's the way I view the reason for codes and procedures and timelines. I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Mayor, can we call the question?
Yeah, I'll call the question. Do I have a motion?
I move to uphold the planning commission's decision.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion fails.
Yeah.
Oh, motion passes, I'm sorry.
Motion passes to.
Yeah, motion passes.
Uphold the
Motion
denial.
passes to uphold.
We'll upholding the planning commission's decision.
And as a point of parliamentary procedure, call the question is only appropriate when there's a motion on the floor and there
Correct.
wasn't at the time.
Okay. Do I need to do it again?
No, but you finished the chair got to give them their
He's
appeal
just-
notices.
Counselor Van Trumbull is just letting me know that he's better at Robert's rules than I am.
Okay. Next on tonight's agenda.
What,
What?
on your chair guide, is there a thing about appealing, if they want to appeal?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The decision of the city council may be appealed by persons or withstanding on the Land Use Board of Appeals by filing a notice of intent to appeal to LUBA 21 days after the decision becomes final. Thank you. Next on tonight's agenda is a public hearing for MUPTI, Multi-Unit Property Tax Exemption Program. For those who wish to testify, there are 3 options available, which were described in the council agenda. I declare the public hearing opened at 7:22 p.m. Does the staff have a report?
Thank you. We do have a report, and let me just share my screen. Looks like it might be doing the same thing that it did to David, where it doesn't show, but. Okay. Good evening. I'm Sophie Adams. I manage economic development for the city of Albany.
And I'm Matthew Eckers, the Community Development Director. Good evening.
So we're here tonight to talk about MUPTI. That's the acronym we'll be using tonight. It's a lot shorter than saying multi-unit property tax exemption over and over. This is for your final review and taking action. But since this is a public hearing, I just wanted to give you a heads up that for the purposes of the public hearing that's required by the Oregon statute, I'll be repeating probably a lot of information that you have heard in previous, I think, 3 presentations. So I appreciate your patience. The purpose of MUPTI, going to let the slide catch up.
Gremlins in the machine?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it was on slideshow. That doesn't work.
I think this screen is, if you move the screen out the way, I bet the slideshow's behind it.
So she's using the Zoom.
Oh, problem. Okay.
Okay. Purpose of MUPTI. The purpose of this program is to accommodate the growing population in areas where residents can live, work, and recreate, creating vibrant mixed-use centers and helping to protect against developments far away from jobs, services, and activities. We all know about these like food deserts in areas of town where there's all this housing and you don't have a grocery store nearby. This is a program that, that the state enacted in the statutes that you can see there on the screen and in the packet to help facilitate development where that doesn't happen. So this is a property tax exemption tool, as the name implies. In order to be eligible for this type of incentive, projects must meet a pretty lengthy list of requirements. First is location. Projects must be within a quarter mile of a fixed route transit service. There's a copy of that boundary map in your packet. It has not changed since your last presentation. Number of units is also a criteria. A project must create or convert a minimum of 5 dwelling units. That is standard for a multi-unit project, and again, that's a requirement of the state. The type of project is also dictated by Oregon state statutes. So projects must be new, additional, or converted multi-unit housing projects. In order to be eligible for exemption, the commercial portion of a project may be eligible as long as it is satisfying one of the public benefit requirements. Construction timeline is also a factor. Projects must be completed within 5 years of an approved application and before January 1st of 2032. Again, that's a state statute requirement. A third-party financial review will be completed for each application to demonstrate that MUPD is necessary to make the project financially feasible, i.e. the project is determined by a third party that it would not happen unless it received a MUPD incentive. So if it doesn't meet that standard, it doesn't get the incentive. Public benefit is the last one on the screen. It's highlighted because it's essentially the biggest section of the program. All projects must include either affordable housing units or an in lieu of fee, and projects must also include, as it's currently written, at least 2 additional public benefits to qualify for a 7-year exemption, and 3 or more to qualify for the full 10 years, which is the maximum. Really 10 years is the amount that the state statute provides for, but jurisdictions have the ability to lower that. So based on your feedback, we did include that 7-year option as well. So I'm going to move on to process next, but just to let you know, we're going to come back to public benefit because I think that's where the bulk of the conversation will happen. The bottom line here on eligibility is that a project has to meet all of these criteria and the third-party financial review and demonstrate their public benefits in order to be eligible. Okay, process. So we'll first have projects will have an eligibility meeting before submitting an application. You could kind of think of it similar to our pre-application process that the Community Development Department already does. They'll meet with staff to determine eligibility, do Q&A, staff can provide feedback on the project. Then they'll submit an application and pay an application fee. Most of a fee. No, thank you. So as probably previously mentioned, the fee dollar amount has not been set yet. That will help cover a portion of staff costs for the city, as well as costs for the Lynn County Assessor's Office, who will be helping administer the actual tax exemption part, as well as the cost of the third-party financial review. Typical application fees range in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. So we would finalize that before, of course, fully enacting this. And then I'd also like to note that in the program guide in your packet, under the application section, it talks about the application being due April 1, but that's a typo. It's actually February 1. So down the road, when you take action on this today, you'd want to make it, just note that decision period that has timelines associated with it that are outlined within the state statute. Staff would review those applications and make sure that they fit all of the criteria that the council had already decided on. Then there is a reporting timeframe during construction as well as after construction, and in the compliance period. So after a project is completed, the exemptions can be terminated if we determine that the project is not meeting the requirements that they said that they were going to meet. Okay, I said I was going to come back to public benefits. Public benefits is a significant piece of this program, as it should be. This list will be familiar with you because it is in your packet and you've probably seen it at the 3 other previous presentations. Most of these are mandated by the ORS, but with your previous input and input that we've been gathering over the last few years, we did add a few. So you'll note the local labor materials or ownership component is one that the council had previously requested. The accessible units beyond code requirements is something that kind of aligns with some additional accessibility work that the city as a whole has been trying to accomplish. You'll see that there's some things on there that have your input and some that are mandated by the state. And again, projects would have to currently have to meet 2 of these requirements in order to get the 7 years, and 3 of the requirements in order to get the 10 years. And that is aside from the affordable housing component that I mentioned earlier. So I included this next slide to kind of help us think more broadly about what public benefits means in the context of a city program. MUPD will result in increased property tax revenue to the city and the other overlapping taxing districts. But benefits to the city really means benefits to the community, right? Those don't always have a direct financial implication for city government. So aside from the list of benefits that I had on the last slide, another benefit is the creation of affordable housing if the provider chooses that option, or the financial support via the in lieu of fee for affordable housing elsewhere in the city. And of course, adding to the overall housing supply, near transit and amenities, that's the real purpose of this program, and that in itself is a public benefit. So I just wanted to include this kind of snapshot of the process that MUPD has gone through today to get to this meeting. In 2021, the council appointed the Housing Affordability Task Force that represented a wide range of housing interests to provide direction on strategies the city could consider to address current and future housing needs. Their recommendation became the Housing Implementation Plan, or the HIP, which was adopted in June of 2023, and MUPD was a tool that was recommended in the HIP. In March of 2024, the City Council had an initial discussion about the program and provided input. In December of 2024, staff brought back the program with incorporated feedback for final review and got the informal thumbs up at that point to bring back the resolution and ordinance. And throughout the process, we've been working with the overlapping taxing districts as well to incorporate their feedback and to document their support. So you'll see an IGA with Lynn County is included as an action item in my memo. And so that brings us to today. This public hearing is a requirement of ORS, like I mentioned, and final action on this program that has been long in the making. So this final slide just talks about the steps now. So discussion tonight in this public hearing, hopefully approval and adoption of the ordinance to establish AMC 3.10 MUPD. Then there'll be adopting of a resolution establishing the MUPD program guidelines and authorizing staff to enter into an IGA with Lynn County. And then just for your reference, after that, we present the IGA to the Lynn County Commissioners. That's scheduled for the first week of November. We'll present the program to the Greater Albany School District. That's also scheduled for November. Then we would do a finalization of the application and any other documents, including lining up those financial consultants, because of course we don't have them under contract yet. And then we're hoping to start implementation January 1. So with that, we'd welcome any questions.
So written testimony was submitted by the deadline, was forwarded to the council. I hope I had a chance to read that. I will now, would council discussions after this, right? Just a second, I'm trying to get to my guide here. Yes, go ahead, council. Oh, Council McLeod.
Thank you, sir. So with the public benefits, I just wanted to clarify it appears there's a typo in the program guide. Under public parking, there's also childcare facilities. Those are meant to be two separate bullet points, correct?
Yes, thank you. There are a couple typos that we noticed when it got transitioned from our Word documents into the packet. We've noted those, and so those will be part of the changes when you take action tonight. Thank you.
So to clarify, there are currently nine public benefits, correct?
Yes, correct. With the exception of that formatting change, yes, what's in the program guide should be accurate.
Okay. I appreciate the work that has gone into MUPD. I would love to see this pass. I would love to see a program like this. However, I think the public benefits are not enough as proposed in this program guide. I think that we should, as I said on Monday, I think that we should have a requirement of 4 public benefits for 7 years of abatement, or 6 public benefits for 10 years of abatement. And that is what I would support tonight.
That would be a financial burden to the person building. He's also, that person, the company, whoever it may be, is bringing jobs to the city. That's a public benefit.
Who? He? Who?
Whatever, who benefits from this, whoever uses this process will create jobs for this city. Contractors, developers, electricians, HVAC, we're bringing money to our city. And so to put additional constraints on them is going to make it hard for somebody to want to do the program here.
I think that these are basic things that are
Can you go back to the
fairly
list, please?
fairly easy to be met, and any developer with a conscience would already be doing most of these things. I think this is an easy way out.
No,
That wasn't me.
your screen black too?
Well, now it's all gone.
I promise that was not me. I did not touch anything.
Overheat?
The slide's on our screen, right? I think Kinsey shut us down.
I was gonna pull up the public benefits slide, but it is also in your packet in the program guide.
If you go to page 113 of your packet, that'll be the start of it, noting Councilor McLeod, as noted under the public parking piece, there should be a separated out childcare facilities there.
That was weird. Oh, the fans are off, yeah. We just lost that section in there, huh? So why would you want to double the requirement?
I believe I've already stated that, sir.
Can you say it again for me too? I just want the excitement of the black screens. I'm sorry.
I believe that the public benefits listed are things that should be standard. They should already be doing these types of things anyway. And so I think we should be asking more on behalf of the people that we represent in our community. And that's why I think we should be asking for 4 or 6, not 2 or 3.
I disagree. And I will always disagree with that position. We're trying to do something for this community that hasn't been done ever, and to put additional constraints, and yes, not just they, people will look at that and say, Albany is misusing that tool. That's my stance. Anybody else have any comments?
I have a question. Do other communities do more than 2 or 3?
Oh, that is a great question. We're going to call up Jen, who is an expert on the comparison of communities.
Because yeah, I agree that like local labor, materials and ownership, like that's an awesome thing. I would love to see all development that's working here to use local labor, materials and ownership. Would love to see people going above and beyond for accessibility and having placemaking in public spaces, you know, but yeah, will you please?
Yes, and I would not say I'm an expert in what everybody's
you're the
doing, but
expert.
I have reviewed what the other cities that have MUPD in place have been doing. It really varies based on community. I mentioned the other night that what works maybe in Portland doing the MUPD program does not necessarily work in a city the size of Albany or for our community. As far as the number of public benefits, it ranges. Some are a requirement of only 2. Some of them are a requirement of 4. So it really, we have to look at what works for us.
Does Springfield or Salem or Corvallis have MUPD implemented at all? Do you know what those-
Corvallis has recently implemented. There's Salem does, Eugene and Bend.
Do you know offhand what and Salem would do? What their requirements are?
I would have to go back and
similar-ish.
Yeah, I have them all listed out. I just don't have it at the forefront right now, but I can get that to you in just a few minutes.
Okay, cool. Just curious what other communities similar to us would be doing. Not like worth discussion.
Good question.
So just kind of a clarification. So this program is somewhat self-limiting, right? In that like only projects that would be financially infeasible without the MUPD are even eligible for the MUPD, yes?
Correct.
Okay, so this is kind of taking that project and pushing it that last little bit over the edge into financial feasibility or projected financial feasibility, I guess.
Correct.
And the area that we're carving out for MUPD in comparison to what could be within 1/4 mile of a fixed route
We love downtown Albany, but it's not financially feasible to do projects like this without the MUPD. And so, yes, we have, there are definitely interest from the private sector in coming to Albany and doing.
they've approached us.
Mhm,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
I will say it was a little bit of a tease when I hear grocery store and I just think of the food desert that I know that Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
South
food
Albany.
desert out in Ward 2, out near where the mayor and Councilor Van Dremelen and
Yes.
Councilor McLeod live.
South of Albany. if
So
you
yeah,
go-
when
Go ahead, go ahead.
you have the numbers.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So just to answer your question, Counselor Newton, as when we did our initial look at what the other communities were doing, as I said, there's a wide range of what we see out there. So some of the communities have them tiered as far as like a substantial one. And then smaller ones like Salem, we have one public benefit from the list of 19. So kind of some lower requirements, but they have a lot of different options. For Florence, one substantial and possibly 3 or more sizable public benefits. Corvallis, one substantial or 3 smaller. And Ben's is 3 public benefits, which includes also the affordable housing aspect.
And that's all for 7 years or 10 years?
Those are all for 10.
Okay.
So none of them have the staggered aspect that we're looking at or that tiered aspect.
Okay, that's helpful to know.
But they do categorize them by impact versus having a smaller number for a smaller number of years.
Mhm.
Okay,
What
so
are-
it's kind of 2 different
Yeah,
methodologies.
what are they saying the more impact, the higher tiered ones are?
I don't have that in.
Okay, no, that's fine. No, it's all good.
But they did
Thanks.
stagger them, right? So they have a higher tier one than a lesser tier.
Some do, yes.
Okay.
Yes, every city is very different, and that's the one good thing about the program is it allows the communities to look at
Some
how
flexibility.
they want to structure it, yes.
We haven't heard from a couple counselors yet. Counselor Thompson, Counselor Smith, Counselor McGee.
Yeah, what's rolling around in my head is as you see the dates on this, council dealt with this in 2024 when I was not on the board, so I've been playing a little bit of catch up. But it kind of feels to me like what's more important to me are the actual projects. And my difficulty is I'm tasked with tonight just giving you the tool. And hopefully, fingers crossed, compliance happens, review happens, et cetera, but it's going to be basically out of my hands. And I can imagine some projects I would be okay with and some not so much. And that's what I'm listening, and that's what I'm dealing with tonight.
So we would be able to pick and choose the projects, or how's it work?
No, I think it's out of our.
The way that this is set up is that you would pick and choose the details of the program itself. And then if projects met all of the criteria in their review, then they would meet the criteria and be approved. So I mean, in some ways, there's a comparison to how development occurs elsewhere within the city where we have the development code and standards that developments have to adhere to. And if they are meeting their requirements, then the council doesn't have a say in those either.
Yeah, I would just add that exactly what Sophie said is the MUPD is set up very similar to like a development code. It's a great example as we've established, the council would be establishing that criteria as well as the program guidelines and then giving staff the ability to kind of regulate that. And I understand, I think it's important when we look at a MUPD tool is really looking back at that financial analysis piece. And a lot of times it's helpful to understand, what is the likelihood of how many of these would we see? How many people would be able to take advantage of the tool? And we don't have crystal balls, but we can take based on the very small area we're talking about in comparison to the entire city. We can estimate, I would estimate with probably in the next 3 to 5 years, you might see 1 or 2 projects actually qualify for the use of the MUPD because that financial analysis it's a pretty high bar that they have to clear right out of the gate. And the application fee is not small.
Okay, so I haven't called on people that, I will now call on those registered to speak. Got kind of out of order, so we're gonna be talking more. We did have written testimony from Mr. Daniel Koenig. Is that it? Is it blank? Oh, we got folks, okay. Okay, Alex Rice is called on fakes that are in favor. Alex Rice.
Mayor Johnson, members of the council, thank you for your time today. I'd also like to thank Councilor McLeod for her comments. I also would like to see the number of public benefits maximized with this proposal, but I'd also encourage you to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Councilor Van Dremelen, I also thank you for your comments. I would also like to see this expanded, but I can understand wanting to implement this as an experiment and see if it succeeds. But anyway, I'm very supportive of MUPTI and would encourage the council to vote to approve it. In the state of Oregon, this experiment with sort of low to medium density car dependent development patterns has been an abject failure. We just saw in the topic we were talking about, one of the major issues was parking. And often we prioritize the ability of cars to get around and our ability to store cars over the needs of human beings. Additionally, at both the state and local level, we're proposing new taxes and new fees in order to support the infrastructure that supports this car-dependent mode of living. I think MUPTI will help this situation by starting to encourage a different pattern of development. For one, it supports it in two ways. For one, greater density means greater tax revenue within a smaller unit area. 30 units of housing on a block are the same amount of asphalt basically for road construction as 3 detached single-family homes. But they bring in a lot more tax revenue and they bring in a lot more economic activity because those are all people that are going to be frequenting public business or local businesses, et cetera. Secondly, by connecting people to the resources that they need, having people living closer to doctors' offices, to bars and restaurants, to grocery stores, that's less car trips that they need to take. I myself live over in Ward 1. My wife and I chose the home that we own because it is close to services. We live near restaurants, we live near places where we can buy food and get the basic needs of daily life. And as a result of that, I now only have to put gas in my car once a month at most, and it is not a new car. So in summation, I wholeheartedly support this proposal. I would encourage the council to please vote to approve. Additional policies that I think we should look into would be to reduce or eliminate exclusionary zoning, rework the system of system development charges to factor in public benefit.
So for the purpose of this hearing, I need to, because you're going off topic.
Sorry.
All right.
Thank you.
I get it, but thank you. Next is Billy McGregor, Ward 1.
Good evening, members of the council. I am Billy McGregor, also a neighbor of Alex Rice. I will keep this short and simple. I highly support density in Albany where density is appropriate. For the purposes of this as a pilot program, I hope that it succeeds. I would love to see this expanded into the CFAs and combined with CFEC regulations. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from those that are in opposition. Cameron Settlemire.
I'm Cameron Settlemire. People are struggling in Albany. The roads are crumbling. Albany has budget issues. How do we deal with it? Fees keep getting added to the water bills. This is a very regressive tax. The MUPTI proposes a tax policy that's worst, tax breaks for the rich. The area is downtown, the waterfront. What will be built here? Not affordable housing. No, it'll be luxury units for people moving into the area. It will also add increased costs to the city, utility, transportation needs. In order to qualify as a public benefit, only 15% of the units have to be affordable to 80% median income. This is a very low threshold. It should be more like 30% of the units affordable to 60% median income. or they have the option to pay 10% of the total tax savings back to the city. Really? Letting developers get huge tax savings that are somehow a public benefit because they pay 10% of the savings back? They keep 90%. How is this a public benefit? The 7 or 10-year tax abatement public benefits are vaguely defined and low standards. As a property owner, I pay thousands in property tax. 100% of that is a public benefit, 100%. You know why? Because it goes to government, it goes to schools, it goes to pay the lights here, it goes for the police force, for the fire department, it goes for education, it goes for the things that make the city work. 100% of it that I pay in property taxes is a public benefit. If developers are not willing to pay their fair share, they really shouldn't be developing here. That's just a basic matter of fairness. So if you want affordable housing, this is a poster child of how not to do it. For example, if you want affordable housing, you could say 100% of this area is going to be for affordable housing. We're going to take that tax revenue and we're going to use it for affordable housing. It doesn't do anything like that. So this needs either major changes to it, or you need to vote no on the MUBT and make developers pay their fair share. This is trickle-down housing at its worst. Tax the poor to give to the rich.
Thank you. I will now call on those who did not register to speak. Any member of the public interested in speaking today on this topic? Thank you. Does staff have final comments in response to the testimony presented?
Thank you. I would just make one comment in response to the affordable housing conversation. And that is that while there is an affordable housing component added into this program guide as it's written, that's not the express intent of MUBT per the ORS. It really is focused on creating multi-units near transit, near services and amenities. So while affordable housing is a component of this program, it's not the intent. And there are other city programs that this council has considered recently that specifically target affordable housing.
So does the council have any questions for staff?
I have a question. We discussed in the past making the 10% in lieu of payment directed at the Affordable Housing Fund, the fund that is starting with the construction excise tax. Money would go that direction, be used for nothing but that. So I just want to bring up that for people who weren't familiar with that conversation or may have forgotten it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
I do have a question about the in lieu of payment, actually, and this could be my ignorance coming in midstream, but how did we arrive at the 10% number?
Sure.
Because that's my question.
Okay, yeah. Some communities don't have an in lieu of fee. Some do. 10% of the ones that do, 10% is the industry standard. So this being a new program and us looking to other communities to see what they're doing, that seemed like a good place for us to start as well.
Do we have any information from those communities then about what ratio developers choose to do either the public benefit route or the in lieu of payment route?
We could probably come up with a ratio. We don't have that in front of us right now. It would, of course, vary depending on the areas of each city where the MUBT boundaries are. Some of that is kind of determined by where you choose to put your boundary, where market might drive more paying the in lieu of fee rather than the
Right,
affordable
which is
housing.
going to be more expensive, paying the in lieu of fee or paying for the public benefits. I mean, I would assume that for most developers, it's probably it's a simple economic calculation, right?
Yeah, and also true affordable housing developers are kind of in a separate category than most other developers. So there are probably only a handful that would truly do that type of development in Albany, at least that we've seen so far. So I would imagine that the in lieu of fee would be used.
Follow-up question?
Yes.
10% of, what is it 10% of? The value of the development?
It's of the foregone revenue.
Thank you.
And I would just add, obviously, to try to compare to a lot of other jurisdictions, as we've heard tonight, the number of public benefits varies kind of widely between the communities. There is a reporting piece that's part of the MUPD of staff coming back and being able to report. The way we've set this up, or the way Sophie set it up, I take no credit here, it is through an ordinance, we established the MUPD tool. And then through resolution, we established the program guide, which makes it fairly easy for us, or for us, for council to make adjustments as we kind of audit, how's the program going? Is it working well? Are the things that are working great? Are they overusing a certain tool? Are they underusing certain tools? We can make adjustments to that as part of that reporting. And also understanding this is, as I mentioned before, probably not a tool that gets really widely used. It's going to be a handful at first, but that's where, this is where a pilot kind of comes in, is we can kind of see how it works. You can tinker with it on the fly.
So it would not be particularly difficult for this council if we find that a tool that we find is not providing the type of public benefit that we want, and we want to incentivize folks to provide greater impact things, services, like we can do that midstream.
Yes, we can amend the program guide.
Sounds kind of like setting the street tree fee so that we're not incentivizing the wrong thing.
So I have a question for you. Now, whomever we give this benefit to, they're gonna want the fire truck to show up and the police department to show up. Are we gonna claw back for public safety, or is that exempt as well?
No, they're not affected by this.
So what I'm saying is that whoever builds whatever is gonna want that fire truck to show up, and they're not paying taxes for 7 or 10 years. Or we have the ability to claw back public safety fees?
Do they pay for the levy?
They still have to pay the levy and those other ones? Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yes, yeah,
As long
sorry
as they're
if I
paying
wasn't
their-
understanding your
long-
question. Yes,
As long as
correct.
they're paying for that fire truck to show up,
Yes.
while that police officer go in the building, then I'm fine with it.
Yes.
They're also subject to the city services fee as well.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So any more questions for staff? Okay, thank you. I will declare the public hearing closed at 8:03. Would anybody like a bio break? Let's go ahead and get through this. Okay, let's get through this. There's an ordinance on your consideration on pages 108 and 109 of the council packet. Will the city attorney please read the ordinance in title only?
An ordinance amending the Albany Municipal Code AMC Title III by creating Chapter 3.10 and enacting a multi-unit property tax exemption MUPD program.
Is there a motion to read the ordinance the second time in title only?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
We're gonna have to bring this back.
Yep.
Thank you. Bio break. Take 10 minutes. Go to. Oh, my knees are hurting. Oh, popcorn. Ugh.
Sometimes it can be open shut 5 minutes and then there's the biggies. Okay, because it's a new backpack. My mother-in-law got it for me, and I'm so I wanted one of these for like a year and a half, but I could never justify.
My hands are dry too, and I don't have my purse. My purse has like, you know what? Remind ourselves to bring some to put in our drawers.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. A little.
Yeah. I
older it's getting worse.
Well, I know, and I try to remind myself to do it every day because that's less, I put it on in the morning out of the shower and then the rest of the day I'm just like
I have some in
sandpaper.
my office at work, it's like butter.
Yeah.
It's really good, and, just so everything, I mean, I have it at work, but.
Yeah.
Everything here.
I like the stuff with shea butter.
Yeah, that mine has shea butter.
That gets absorbed, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that
It
works.
gets absorbed, feels soft, you don't have to reapply. It's not
Yep.
like that, you know, wet, dry lotion that you would work the lotion.
Yeah.
Put that on, like, and you know, you gotta work it through too, because it's kind of thick.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're like, got it done.
Oh, and then you feel so good at
You
it.
do, I know, and then mine has a nice smell to it,
Yeah.
but it's just like, it's a nice scent. Yeah. Yeah. I should have brought, maybe I'll bring it. Well, no, that's my good.
That doesn't work. Just so you know, that doesn't work.
Yes, I got it.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, okay.
I have a little bit.
Depends on what you got.
I've got this.
Yeah, a little bit left. Let's, drive it home.
I know she's gonna go.
Just beat.
I know she was gonna go.
Oh, great. Now we're shooting boats in the Pacific.
Do my damn pen artist.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Actually, no, 3. We got 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, no, not who I was.
My business cards are in my pocket. That rubber band around them. I had a really good time this afternoon. I was, and my clients over there, I went in their house and gave me a tour. Yeah. And they're both, he's 79, she's 79, she's 79.
I do have a picture.
The house. But they're happy they had stairs in the previous house. So they're happy, you know, so. None to cry when I took it out there. Let me show you this small. And I had a vent, I had one of the rock in the line, I had a friend of it, had a layout and thing, so I took them out there. And she was just. Hooked up with a realtor. Hooked up with a mortgage.
There's a period of time where we were
They're
searching
quite happy.
before we found
Paid
out
off.
what was wrong, so now at least we know. Yeah, it will never happen. That's the.
1 minute, 1 minute to reconvene.
No, I'm not ready for it. I'm like.
I took a piece of confetti and stuck it in my wife. Yeah. We'll take care of that.
I can't even find her.
Yeah. Thank you for being back at 8:13 PM. Next, tonight's agenda is public comment. Public comment is a time for Albany's residents to speak and for councilors to listen. The council won't discuss topics or make decisions during the public comment time, but will take the comments or requests under advisement. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and must follow the council's rules and observe the same standards of decorum. If unable to do so, they will be asked to step down and rejoin the audience for the rest of the meeting. When you get to the microphone, please give your name and state whether or not you live in the city of Albany. Written testimony comments was received from Jared Redmond and Stephen Smith. Okay. No better order. So I'll call Sophie Adams and Trina Henderson.
Good evening again. Sophie Adams. I manage economic development for the city of Albany. Part of my job gives me the pleasure of managing our contract with the Downtown Association for their Main Street services. And tonight, I would like to introduce Trina Henderson, who is the new executive director of the Albany Downtown Association.
Hi, good evening, counselors. My name is Trina Henderson. I'm the new director of the Albany Downtown Association. Thank you for having me here. One of the first things that I was tasked to do 2 weeks ago was Oregon Main Street, which brought over 250 people into the downtown area. And I just wanted to publicly thank the city of Albany because we could have not pulled that off without your help. So I used to work in Salem as a marketing director and project management, and I have community relations and marketing. I've been in Albany almost all my life, but sorry, I'm nervous. So what drove me back to Albany is being part of the community. I'm community driven. I love being a part of our community. I started a 501c3 in Tangent, and our mission is to bring scholarships to our town. We relaunched the Harvest Festival this last year with a combine demolition derby, and we hosted our very first farmers market. So I also own a business here in town, Main and Oak Event Planning. We do community fundraising and also celebration of life. So I'm excited to be back in the downtown area. I look forward to working with everybody, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Next on tonight's agenda, action item number 6, resolutions alpha, fire and life safety services fee schedule, update from Fire Chief LaBelle and Battalion, Fire Chief? No. What's her title? Fire Marshal, Laura Radcliffe, pages 122 to 127 in your packet. Sorry about that.
Good evening, Mayor Johnson and councilors. I don't have a PowerPoint, so sorry to disappoint. My name is Laura Radcliffe. I have the privilege of being Albany's Fire Marshal. In your packets in front of you are the requested Fire and Life Safety Division fee proposals. The proposed fee adjustments are necessary to ensure that the Albany Fire Department can continue to provide timely and effective service, as well as maintain compliance with updated safety standards. These increases will help offset rising operational expenses and allow us to maintain the high level of fire and life safety in our community that they expect and deserve. And I'll take any questions for anyone at this time.
I personally wasn't concerned about the fee adjustments. When was the last time the fees were adjusted?
Some in 23, some in 2019, and some are older than
Yeah,
that.
so
So
you're
it's-
just bringing them all up to current standards.
Correct.
Council?
I move to adopt the updated fee schedule as published in the packet.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Have a good evening. Next on tonight's resolution B, Fire Med Program Rate Increase, Fire Chief LaBelle and Laura Radcliffe. Oh, changed up on me. Okay.
Sorry, I told him I'd do it.
Introduce yourself to the rest of
All
the
right,
council.
my name is Ray Woolridge. I'm the Division Chief EMS for the Albany Fire Department.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we are asking approval to raise the fire med fee from $70 to $85. The program is currently running in a deficit, and by raising the fee, it makes the program self-sufficient. There are other fire departments that only waive 50% of the bill to remain solvent. We felt that this would be confusing and potentially have a negative impact on enrollment and a less of a benefit for our members. This program has positively impacted many families, and we want to see it be successful in the future. Thank you, and do you have any questions?
So I know the last time it was updated was 2019, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and so how many currently enrollees do you have?
Around 2,400.
2,400?
Yeah.
I gave him an application when I walked in today. So
Thank
he has
you.
that. So let me ask you a question. How often, what are those dollars used for?
So it goes directly to, basically it waives the deductibles. So with people having $1,000 deductibles now, it's not very solvent at the current price.
Right. I know that the Medicare Advantage plans is averaging $300 for the copay, one trip, one way.
Yes.
It's gotten expensive. Okay,
Yes.
council, any questions at all?
Comment.
Got a comment?
I'm a proud member since 1995. It's a bargain at any price.
Thank you.
This is a reasonable increase.
Thank you.
Council? Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the fee increase.
Second.
All those, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you, council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Adoption by motion, contract increase for ST 22-06 Geary Street sidewalk with safe routes to school. Stacy Barkowski and Andrew Monaco, pages 132 to 134 in your packet.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. When council awards a construction contract, we almost always include a 10% contingency in the contract award. This contingency is used to cover change order costs when there is extra work that's not included in the contract. Albany's municipal code requires when a contingency goes above 10% that council has to approve that increase. Tonight, staff is requesting that council approve an increase to the contingency for the Geary Street sidewalk project from 10% to 25%. Payment for work completed to date on the project through September includes change orders that are equal to 6.3% of the construction contract. And staff does anticipate that there will be additional change orders that will exceed the 10% contingency that was approved with the contract. We are requesting that council approve the increase now, and this is to avoid either a delay in the contractor doing the work or situations where staff's asking the contractor to do extra work in good faith. This project includes construction of infill sidewalk on Geary Street between Grand Prairie Road and 34th Avenue. Funding is through a Safe Routes to School grant from the Oregon Department of Transportation. We received a grant of $1.28 million. And then the city includes this project in our transportation system plan. So we're able to use systems development charges for the required match. Emery & Sons Construction is the contractor on the project. They were awarded the contract in May. Work started in June, and we do expect that the project will be complete by the end of November. The changed conditions that we're seeing out in the field, they're primarily work that's required to tie improvements in the right-of-way to improvements on private property. There's, I think, 50 properties that are located adjacent to this project, and staff has been negotiating with some of them to purchase right away, and then the other property owners to determine how we're going to tie the public improvements to their private property. The estimated cost to purchase right away when we awarded the contract was $210,000. Staff actually was able to negotiate with property owners, and the cost to purchase right away is going to be $120,000. This is a $90,000 savings that will be applied towards the increase to the contract. So in essence, we're making improvements on private property instead of in exchange for purchasing the right of way. For this item, we are recommending that council by motion approve the increase for the project to 25%. This contingency will only be used if needed to pay for extra work that's not included in the contract.
Council, any questions?
Comments? This project is half in Ward 2 and half in Ward 3. The Ward 2 side is pretty much done. Ward 3 is getting there. It is changing the character of that part of Geary Street for the better. My husband has commented a number of times as we drive down that street all the time, Albany is growing up. And it's something that needed to be done for a long time. For years, the only sidewalk was on the Ward 3 side, south of 31st. And the neighbors got together to build that a long time ago at about the same, well, it was after a former city councilor got the speed zone lowered to 25. Used to be 40. I've been really impressed with the work that the contractors have done to create driveway aprons that match the sidewalks. It is a big part of the job, and I was surprised that the money was stretching as far as it was. So great work, overdue, much appreciated.
What she said. I drive through there all the time, and it's looking really nice right now. So, council, what would you like to do with this? Have a motion?
Move, we approve the increase.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you. Item D on your packet, adopt by motion, award of, thank you so much. Are you standing for this?
I've got the
too?
next item
Okay.
too.
I didn't see your name yet. Award of contract with WWTP -24-707 compost expansion improvements. Engineer Stacy Brill Castro and Nolan Nelson. You're by yourself then.
Yes. So staff is requesting that council approve a contract with Kennedy Jenks in the amount of $1,598,600. This is to provide consulting services that are needed to expand the composting facility that's located at the city's wastewater treatment plant. We call this the Albany Millersburg Water Reclamation Facility. The cities of Albany and Millersburg constructed the I'm going to call it the WRF in 2010. This was to replace the previous plant. The solids processing improvements that were constructed do not work as intended. I think council's heard this before. And this results in production of an unstabilized solid that can't be beneficially reused. And in lieu of this, the solids have to be hauled off-site and disposed of at the landfill. This comes at a cost. The cost to haul just one truckload of solids is about $700 per load. On average, we have 6 trucks running a day, 4 days a week. And then when you do the math, the annual cost is over $800,000. This is why in 2023, Millersburg and Albany got together and built a small-scale compost facility that's able to process about 25% of the solids that are produced at the plant. This compost facility has been very successful. It creates an exceptional Class A biosolid that meets all regulatory requirements and can be beneficially reused. Unfortunately, the remaining solids at the plant still do have to be hauled to the landfill, which is why we are looking to expand the composting facilities at the plant so that we can treat all the solids that the plant produces. We advertised a request for proposals to select a consultant to complete the design needed for this work. Kennedy Jenks, they are out of Portland. They were the only consultant that responded to the RFP. Staff is very familiar with this consultant. They're highly qualified. In fact, they were the engineer that designed the existing composting system. Funding for the design and construction of this project will be from settlements funds that the city of Albany and Millersburg received of $9.2 million. And then we also have a grant from the EPA of excuse me, I'm losing my voice, $1.5 million. Staff is requesting that council by motion approve the contract with Kennedy Jenks.
Council, any questions or comments?
Thanks for doing some dirty work. Sorry, I had to get in one pun tonight or else I feel like I disappoint my husband. He likes to watch and say, man, how many jokes can you put in? But I want to make a motion to approve
the award of contract for $1.6 million to Kennedy Jenks Consultants to design upgrades will at the Albany Millersburg facility process all biosolids on site instead of hauling them to landfills.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is business from the council. I'm going to start with Counselor Thompson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple things. One, I just want to add one final statement related to my apology on Monday. Today, the council received an email from Ben Roach, which summarized our phone call, mine and Ben's, over the issue from Saturday. We talked it over and agreed to work towards solutions and where we can meet in the middle. It just so happens that right now before the community is the question of the Lynn County Sheriff's Levy. And Ben and I are going to show our united support for this absolutely needed measure before the voters. And secondly, I'm a fan of Albany's history. And tonight I wanted to just say a moment to say a little paragraph about an important figure in Albany's varied, rich history. Alan Hart was a highly regarded physician, radiologist, researcher, and writer who pioneered the use of X-ray technology in tuberculosis detection in the 1930s, literally saving countless lives in the United States and throughout the world. He was also a prolific writer and published several fiction novels. Hart called Albany, Oregon home in his youth, graduating from both Albany Union High School and Albany College. October, the reason why I'm saying it, October is the month of his birth. Many don't know about this highly successful native son due to his being a member of the LGBTQ community. Hart was a great American and man, and we should acknowledge his incredible contributions to medicine and that his academic origins were here in Albany. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Counselor. Nice history. Counselor Newton.
I got nada for you. Are you surprised? I need you to be like, oh my goodness, that look.
Like, wow. Okay, Counselor Chris Van Dremelen.
No new business tonight.
Thank you. Counselor McLeod.
I think you've all heard enough from me tonight.
Counselor McGee.
Nothing tonight.
Counselor Smith.
I'll end the evening with some personal economics. I got my tax bill this week. I was expecting it. And I can report that for the current bill, I paid the city of Albany $1,510.75 in property taxes. The bill was $103.64 higher than last year. The assessed value of my home was $5,220 higher than last year. And the broken down by 365 days a year, I pay the city $4.13 in property taxes.
I have to do that with mine. Mine's on the counter.
It's an interesting exercise.
So I had the pleasure today to hand the keys to a brand new home to a young couple here in Albany, Oregon. A program called First Story. Counselor McGee was a part of it, and so was Counselor Smith. And we talked about the journey from building smaller footprint homes in the city of Albany. And it's really nice to see a young couple go through the process, the interview, to be selected to get their first home. And watching the young lady, the little girl, run in the house, she was happy, ran right to her bedroom, already picked it out. To see that, the look and smile on that family's face was tremendous. I want to thank Hayden and all the folks that contributed to that program. And First Story is a great program. And they've given away houses in Albany for the last like 20 years or something like that. So it's a really nice program. If you ever get a chance to submit, know somebody that could use a house, please have them apply for it next year. And with that, I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two things for you this evening. We're able to cancel the 3rd of November work session, which is would be your next meeting. So your next meeting will be the 5th of November. And then to let you know also that Deputy City Manager Kayla Barbara Parada and myself will be at the ICMA conference next week. So Matthew Rutgers will be pro tem city manager, acting city manager, Monday through Wednesday of next week. I'll be back Thursday morning. And that is all I have, Mayor.
And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. See you November 5th at 6 p.m. Go ahead, go sweat me, but see we like.